somewhere around who even knows BCE, long before humans learned to tame fire.
Soldier, you wildin'.
You wanna be tough, better do what you can, so beat it. But you wanna be bad, just
2,500 major stadiums, 301,000 clubs, 265 million players. Today, soccer, or football as most of the world calls it, is no longer just a game. It is business, influence, and an empire. More than $50 billion in revenue every year. Around 20 billion of that goes just to player salaries. 320 million tickets sold every year, and 5 billion football fans around the world. For many people, this game has become more than entertainment. It has become an icon, a religion, a part of life. Fans get tattoos of their heroes. They build statues for them, and they even name streets, stadiums, and entire airports after football legends. But most people don't realize that just 160 years ago, modern football did not even exist. There were no universal rules, no global fame, no billion-dollar industry. There was only a ball, a field, and chaos. And now, we're going to see how soccer took over the world. Scientists believe that some of the earliest traces of ball games lead back to Mesoamerica, the region that includes modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. There, at the archaeological site of El Manatí in 1987, in the Mexican state of Veracruz, Mexican archaeologists Ponciano Ortiz and Maria del Carmen Rodriguez found 14 ancient rubber balls made from natural latex. They date back to around 1600 BCE. And these were not just toys. For the ancient peoples of Mesoamerica, the ball game could be part of rituals, power, and religious beliefs. The rules changed across different eras and different places, but most of the time, players were not simply kicking the ball with their feet. They struck a heavy rubber ball with their bodies, using their hips, shoulders, or forearms. Later, in some versions of the game, stone rings appeared on the courts. Players had to send the ball through the ring while barely using their hands. But that was incredibly difficult, because the ball could weigh several kilograms, and players had to strike it with their bodies. This was not football yet. But even then, people already had this strange desire to chase a ball, compete, and win. But Mesoamerica was not the only place where people came up with a ball game. While, on one side of the world, a heavy rubber ball was becoming part of rituals, on the other side of the world, another game appeared, one that looked much closer to football. In ancient China, in the state of Qi, the first written mentions appeared of a game called Tsuju. Literally, the name means kickball, or strike the ball with the foot. At first, soldiers played it as a form of training, for endurance, coordination, and team thinking. But over time, society became so fascinated by the game that it moved beyond the army. It began to appear at court, among the nobility, and later in cities. The ball was made of leather. It was stuffed with feathers, horsehair, or grain husks. In some versions, players had to use their feet to send the ball into an opening or a net attached between tall bamboo posts. And this is where the ball game became much closer to modern football, because the main principle was already the same. The ball had to be controlled with the feet. Using your hands was not allowed. Not simply struck with the body, but kicked with the foot. That is why FIFA recognizes Tsuju as one of the oldest known forms of a game similar to football. But even China was not the only place where people created their own versions of ball games. Around the same period, but farther west, ancient Greeks and Romans also had their own games. The Greeks had a game called Episki Rose. The Romans had Harpastum. These games were much rougher. The ball could be thrown, caught, taken by force, and passed between players. So this was less like football and more like a mix of rugby, wrestling, and military training. For armies, games like this were useful. They developed endurance, reaction speed, strength, coordination, and the ability to move together. But most importantly, they showed the same idea again. For the sake of a ball, people were ready to form teams, to push, argue, and risk injuries, to follow the rhythm of the game, all for one simple goal: to beat the opponent and win. Centuries passed, and in medieval England, this idea turned into real street chaos. In different towns and villages across England, people played what was known as folk football. Games like this were known in Derbyshire, London, Chester, and other places. This was still not football with clear rules. Most of the time, people used everything at once: feet, hands, shoulders, and the raw force of the crowd. The goal could also change from place to place. Sometimes the ball had to be carried to a certain spot, and sometimes it had to be thrown or kicked into a target. Instead of stadiums, there were streets, fields, bridges, and town squares. Instead of teams of 11 players, there were dozens, sometimes even hundreds of people. The game often ended with fights, broken fences, smashed windows, and complaints from residents. That is why English authorities tried to ban these games several times, but people kept playing anyway. The problem was not that football was boring. The problem was that it was too chaotic. And for this street game to become a real sport, it was missing only one thing: rules. By the 19th century, the problem had become obvious. People had been playing with a ball for thousands of years, but in every place, the game was different. Even in England, there was no single version of football. At rugby school, players could pick up the ball with their hands and run forward with it. At Eton, Harrow, Winchester, and other schools, they played by their own rules. In some places, hard physical contact was allowed. People argued about whether you could kick an opponent in the legs. And in some versions, the main idea was to carry the ball with your hands. The first serious attempt to bring everything together happened in 1848 in Cambridge. Students who had come from different schools tried to create one common set of rules. This is how the Cambridge Rules appeared. One of the first rule sets that tried to turn different school versions of football into one understandable game. It was an important step. For the first time, people began to understand that without common rules, the game could never become big. A few years later, another important moment came. On October 24, 1857, in the city of Sheffield, two men, Nathaniel Creswick and William Prest, founded Sheffield Football Club. Today, it is considered the oldest football club in the world that still exists. But even then, every school, club, and city still played by its own rules. And this is where a man appears without whom modern football could have looked very different. Ebenezer Cobb Morley, a London lawyer, athlete, and founder of Barnes Football Club. He proposed creating an organization that would finally give football one common set of rules. And so, on October 26, 1863, the Football Association was created, the FA. And by December 1863, Morley had prepared the first 13 rules of the game. This was the moment when football began to separate from rugby, because the new rules banned hacking, kicking an opponent in the legs. The ball was still the same. People still wanted to compete. But now the game had what it had been missing for centuries: common rules. And from that moment, football stopped being just a local pastime. It became a system, and that system could finally begin to spread. 1872. England and Scotland played the first official international football match. FIFA was founded in Paris, an organization created to unite football across different countries. 1930. The first World Cup was held in Uruguay. Only 13 national teams, one city, Montevideo, 3 stadiums, and a final where Uruguay defeated Argentina 4-2. From that moment, football had more than just rules, more than just an organization. It had the biggest tournament on the planet, a stage for nations, a dream for players, and an audience ready to live for the game. So a game that was once street chaos became a global system, and maybe that is the real secret of football. It did not need complicated equipment. It did not need expensive conditions. It only needed a ball, 2 sides, and the desire to win.
Yeah.